the number of church members. But 75% live in.
How did you do on the
How did
exam?
you?
I did all right on
I didn't
everything
write
except the
an
last essay
exam.
question.
Last
Yeah,
question of the
it was a
year.
brain
It was a
teaser.
brain
I
teacher.
really wasn't
That
prepared
was
to write about the
prepared
problems
writing
of
with the problem and the
capitalism. The
capitalism.
professor
The
didn't spend so
professor
much
didn't
time
spend
on
so
the
much
issue.
time on the
I
issue.
didn't think it
I
would be
didn't
on the
think it
test.
would be on the
Me
test.
neither.
Me neither.
I thought he would
I
ask
thought
us
they
something
would
about
ask us something about
socialism and its
socialism and
problems,
its
or
problem, and
maybe the
maybe
perspectives of NATO countries regarding nuclear weapons. In any case, though, it was impossible for me to answer the question. You know, I didn't want to take the test home, but I couldn't help it.
What do you mean?
What do you
You
mean?
didn't study for the
Study
exam?
for the exam?
How could I? I pulled an all-nighter writing a report about environmental policy in the United States. It was due this morning,
Did you hand it in?
just in the nick of time. Anyway, do you know how much today's
How much
exam
today's
counts for the
exam
final
counts
grade?
for the
I
final
think
grade? I
it's
think it's
35%.
35%.
35%?
No.
No, really in hot water. That means I'll have to get A's on everything else to get a decent grade. How did you do on the exam?
I did all right on everything except here to use these machines almost every day. How about you? Do you come here often?
Excuse me.
Excuse
We're
me.
in the same discourse analysis class on Fridays with Professor Tilden.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I was wondering if you could follow the explanation for the upcoming exam.
Yes, I think so.
Yes, I think so.
That last part about the written section was a bit unclear.
I got the part where units 1 through 8 would be covered, and that the first 50 items would be short films. But I couldn't understand what he wanted for the essay section.
Well, as I understood it, there'll be 4 essay choices, and we'll have to choose 2.
So the essay section is half the test. I was hoping you'd get less, since I tend to do poorly when it comes to test writing.
Don't quote me, but I don't remember Professor Tilden saying the essays were worth 50%.
Or 50%.
Excuse me, we're in the same discourse analysis class on Fridays with...
Excuse me, Dr.
Excuse
White.
me, Dr. White.
Do you have a moment?
Do you have a moment?
Yes.
Yes.
How can I
How
help
can
you?
I help you?
Well, I
Well,
have
I
3
have 3
exams on
exams
the
at the
same day.
same day.
So
So
I'm wondering if I
wondering
could take
if
your language laboratory exam the day before the scheduled date.
I'm glad you told me beforehand, because once you've missed the exam, I don't allow you to do any makeup exam, whatever the reason is. But rescheduling is possible, and
Rescheduling
it is
is
handled at the
impossible.
student office. So I think you should
So
go
I
to the
think you
student
should
office
go to
and
the
ask the
student
staff there.
staff there.
Right, I was there just a minute ago, and I was told that the request has to be done at least 10 days before. I hadn't known that. All I can do now is to ask you in person to change the date.
I'm sorry, but I don't think I can do that. It's against the rules for me to change the date. And besides, it's almost impossible to set up the exam on Thursday, because other professors have already reserved the lab on that day.
Well, I guess I should have addressed the problem earlier. Excuse me, Dr. White.
Today, we're going to review the main function.
The problems.
Today, we're going to review
Review the main function of the
nose.
nose.
To smell.
To smell.
Or olfaction.
Olfaction.
It relies on specialized interactions
interaction
between
between
chemicals
chemical
and nerve
and
endings.
nerve ending.
So let's say
So
when
let's
a
say
rose
when
is
the rose
sniffed,
sniffed,
happens in
what
the nose?
happens to the nose?
Odor
All
molecules
the
are carried
molecules
by
are
a
carried
rising
by a rising
airstream
airstream
to the nasal
to the nasal cavity,
where the tips
where the
of tens
tips
of
of
millions of
10 millions
olfactory
of
nerve cells are
olfactory nerves
clustered in the
are
mucus
clustered
lining.
in the lining.
The molecules
The
somehow
molecules
trigger the
somehow
nerve
trigger the
endings,
nerve
which carry the
ending,
message
which
to the
carry the message
olfactory
to the
lobes of the brain.
Right.
Right.
Then what
Then
happens in the
what
brain?
happens to the brain?
The smell
The smell
information
and
travels to
information
other
travels
regions of
to
the
other
brain.
regions of the brain.
So the scent of a
So the
rose
scent
can
of
elicit
the
not only a pleasurable sensation, but emotions
but
and
emotions
memories as
and
well.
memories as well.
Exactly.
Exactly.
How
How
odor
odor
stimulates the nerves
stimulates
is
the
unknown,
nerve is unknown.
but our sense of
But
smell
our
is
sense of smell
surprisingly
is surprisingly
and is
keen,
capable of
and is
distinguishing
able
up
to
to tens of
distinguish
thousands of chemical odors. Now, olfaction is connected to other sensations too. What are they? Anyone?
Since the nasal cavity contains not only olfactory nerves, but also pain-sensitive nerves, sensations, such as the kick in ammonia or the burning in chili peppers, are also perceived.
Is that all that smell performs?
Smell also intertwines with taste to create flavor.
Can you give us an example to show that?
Well, for example, a coffee drinker holding his nose while sipping would taste only the bitter in his brew. For taste receptors generally appear limited to bitter, salty, sour, and sweet tastes. The sense of smell is 10,000 times more sensitive than taste, and makes subtle distinctions among lemon, chocolate, and many more flavors.
Good. So how does the nose manage this sophisticated discrimination?
One theory is that every odor molecule vibrates in its own frequency, creating patterns of disturbance in the air similar to the wave patterns produced by sound. The nerves act as receivers for the unique vibrations of every odor molecule.
Right. But that theory requires no direct contact between the molecule and the nerve cell. Any alternatives?
Another idea is that primary odors, equivalent to the primary colors of vision, underlie all smells and are detected by receptor sites on the olfactory nerves. Different combinations of about 30 basic smells, with labels such as malty, minty, and musky, could form an infinite number of odors.
Good. Anything else?
Some scientists think that each smell is its own primary smell. They believe the olfactory nerve endings have specific receptor proteins that bind to each of the chemicals people can sense.
Yes. That theory, however, calls for thousands of different proteins, none of which have been found. It is often
It is
said
often
that
said that the
science of smell is so
empirical,
no
so
predictive
no
base for
predictive base for experiments.
However, unraveling the mystery of smell will
mystery of
advance
smell
our
will
understanding
advance
of
our
the brain
understanding of the
and
brain
contribute
and
to many
contribute
other
to many
different
other
fields.
different fields.
Today, we're going
Today
to
we are
review the
going to
main
review the
function
main
of the
function of the
nose,
nose.
to smell,
To smell,
or
or
olfaction.
olfaction.
It relies on
It relies on
specialized
specialized
interactions
interaction
between
between
chemicals
chemicals
and
and
nerve
nerve
endings.
endings.
So let's say
So
when
let's
a
say
rose
when
is
the rose
sniffed,
is
what happens
sniffed,
in the
what
nose?
happens to the nose?
Odor molecules
Odor
are carried
molecule
by a
has a
rising
rising
air stream
air
to the top of the
stream
nasal
to the
cavity,
nasal cavity,
where the tips
where
of
the
tens
tips
of
and
millions of
tails and millions
olfactory
of
nerve cells are
olfactory nerves
clustered
and
in the mucus lining.
mucus lining.
The molecules
The
somehow
molecule
trigger the nerve
trigger the
endings,
nerve
which
endings,
carry the
which
message to
carries
the
the message
olfactory
to
lobes of the brain.
the brain.
Right. Then
Right.
what happens
Then
in the
what
brain?
happens to
The
the brain?
smell
The smell
information
information
travels to other
travels
regions of the brain,
to the brain.
so the scent of a rose
So the
can
system
elicit not
can
only
elicit
a
not only a
pleasurable
pleasurable
but
sensation,
emotions
but
and
emotions
memories
and
as well.
memories as well.
Exactly.
Exactly.
How odors
How
stimulate the
odor
nerves
stimulates
is
the
unknown,
nerve are unknown.
but our sense of
What
smell
else
is
is-
surprisingly keen and is capable of distinguishing up to tens of thousands of chemical odors.
Chemical
Now,
odors. No.
Olfaction is
Olfaction
connected
is
to other
connected to other
sensations too.
sensations.
What are they?
What are they?
Anyone?
Anyway,
Since the nasal
since the
cavity
nasal
contains
cavity
not only
contains not
olfactory
only
nerves,
olfactory
but
nerve,
also
but also
pain-sensitive nerves,
sensations,
sensations such as the kick and ammonia, or the burning in chili peppers are also perceived.
perceived.
Is that all that
Is
smell
that all the
performs?
smell performs?
Smell also intertwines
Smell
with taste to create flavor.
Can you give us an example to
give
show
a-
that?
Well, for example, a coffee drinker holding his nose while sipping would taste only the bitter in his brew. For taste receptors generally appear limited to bitter, salty, sour, and sweet tastes. The sense of smell is 10,000 times more sensitive than taste, and makes subtle distinctions among lemon, chocolate,
Lemon, chocolate,
and
and many
flavors.
more flavors.
Good. So how does the nose manage this sophisticated discrimination?
One theory is that every odor molecule vibrates in its own frequency, creating patterns of disturbance in the air similar to the wave patterns produced by sound. The nerves act as receivers for the unique vibrations of every odor molecule.
Right. But that
Right,
theory
but
requires no direct
direct
contact between the molecule and the nerve cell. Any alternatives?
Any alternatives?
Another idea is
Another
that
idea
primary
is that the
odors,
primary
equivalent
odors
to the primary colors of vision,
colors and vision
underlie all smells and are
and
detected by receptor
detected
sites
by
on the olfactory nerves. Different combinations of
Different
about 30
combination of
basic
about-
smells, with labels such as malty, minty, and musky, could form an infinite number of odors.
Good.
Good.
Anything else?
Anything else?
Some scientists think that each smell is its own primary smell. They believe the olfactory nerve endings have specific receptor proteins that bind to each of the chemicals people can sense.
Yes. That theory, however, calls for thousands of different proteins, none of which have been found. It is often said that the science of smell is so empirical that there's no predictive base for experiments. However, unraveling the mystery of smell will advance our understanding of the brain and contribute to many other different fields. Today, we're going to review the main function of the nose, to smell, or olfaction. It relies on specialized interactions between chemicals and nerve endings. So let's say when a rose is sniffed, what happens in the nose?
Odor molecules are carried by a rising air stream to the top of the nasal cavity, where the tips of